Hi everybody, welcome back to Sunshine Soap and Candle Company. If you've been following my channel for a long time, you may be familiar with an old but popular soap video I made back in 2017 called All Natural Soap, Carrot, Turmeric, and Honey. That soap making video and that soap formula have really been the catalyst to a lot of amazing things that have happened in my business over the last 7 years. But for a while, I've been wanting to reformulate that recipe, and I'll go into all those details about why in the video. In today's video, I'm going to be going over my full visual process and step-by-step tutorial of how to make this revised version of the carrot, turmeric, and honey soap. And if you would like the full written recipe plus percentages, amounts, and details of where you can purchase all the supplies to make this formula, please head on over to my Patreon campaign. It'll be over there available at the $5 level. If you haven't had a chance to check out my Patreon campaign yet, I really hope that you will. There's hundreds of recipes and tutorials for you to take advantage of just at the $5 level. I'll go ahead and place the link to my campaign in the description box below for you. In fact, the first formula I ever published over there was the original carrot, turmeric, and honey soap, which you can still access today, along with hundreds of other recipes and tutorials. I really hope you'll consider joining. There's a ton to take advantage of. We are still offering coupon codes upon sign up to my favorite suppliers as well, making your sign up very well worth it. All right, let's get started. All right, so if you remember, the original version of this soap only had one oil in it, and we used 100% extra virgin olive oil and no other oils or butters. And while that makes a lovely bar of soap, I wanted to revise it for a few different reasons. Olive oil has skyrocketed in price fairly recently, so making the olive oil soap a very expensive bar of soap to make. And also, I was looking to go for a more balanced bar of soap. While 100% olive oil soaps do have a place, they're very gentle, they're great for people with sensitive skin, and they have a low and creamy lather. They're not going to be a harsh cleanser, or they're not going to be drying to the skin. I wanted to go for more of a balanced bar of soap by adding in different oils and bringing in different properties to this loaf of soap. And so for that reason, we've revised it to include a much smaller amount of olive oil, and then we're using mango butter for its healing properties and also to help the bar be a little bit harder. And we're using castor oil for its bubbles and lather, coconut oil for its cleansing properties and its hardness properties, shea butter for its moisturizing properties, stearic acid for its conditioning properties and also to help the bar be a little bit harder, and sunflower oil because it's high in linoleic acid and it gives us a very emollient feeling, while also a gentle cleanser like olive oil. So we're kind of cutting that olive oil way down and then adding in some sunflower oil because it's similar to olive oil in a lot of ways. But that will help us reduce the cost, but also add in a lot of properties that are going to help the bar have a nice lather, a long-lasting hard bar of soap, but it's also very appropriate for sensitive skin like the original version. And then we're going to go over the additives here as well. So all of the additives have remained the same. I am using one additional one we'll talk about here, but if you remember from the original version, we used carrot puree, we used turmeric, ground turmeric, organic carrots, raw honey, orange essential oil 10 times, and then some colloidal oats. Now, all of this we were using for their nourishing properties, bringing vitamins and nutrients to the skin, but also their healing properties. So orange essential oil is anti-inflammatory. Same with the turmeric. It's a very powerful antioxidant and anti-inflammatory. And then raw honey is also anti-inflammatory, but it has some antibacterial properties in it as well. And then the colloidal oats are very calming and soothing. So we are adding in another essential oil here. The only thing that we're doing different with these additives, as well as I have changed the amount that I'm putting into the soap, and I'll get all into that details of that in the video. But I'm also going to be using a little bit of clove essential oil for a couple different reasons. Mainly because I really like the way it smells in combination with orange essential oil, and I wanted to give it a little bit more depth, but also Cloves, while they can be irritating, clove essential oil and orange essential oil actually can both be irritating to the skin. And used in the proper amounts, they can actually be an anti-inflammatory. So we are using a small bit of both of these for their lovely fragrance and anti-inflammatory properties. So going to put my goggles on and then we'll get started here. So this is just my lye and my water solution, and I'm going to go ahead and place it into my oils and butters, my melted oils and butters. Now I did prep this earlier today, so I want to go ahead and take the temperature of it real fast. So we're sitting right around 83 degrees on the oils and around 90 degrees on the lye solution, and usually I soak right around room temperature, so this is a little warm for me, but I think we're going to be okay based on the design that we're going to be making here. So here we go. I'm just going to go ahead and add this in. I'm just going to pulse my stick blender, just get this right to emulsification, because some of the additives that we're using will likely accelerate trace. Well, in fact, I know that they will. All right, so I'm actually going to be changing the design up as well on this soap, just to make it look a little more interesting and kind of botanical. So I'm going to go ahead and split my soap up into 2 containers, and all I'm doing is dividing it in half. And I'm just going to kind of eyeball this part. I have a little more than, I have about 5 pounds of soap here, so I'm just going to eyeball. So yeah, we're sitting at right around a little over 1 liter each in each container. So in life, I believe that things do happen for a reason, and there aren't really any accidents, although I don't think that's true all of the time. But I do think that there are things that happen in life that you cannot deny that there was something else at play that helped put the pieces into play to make things happen the way that they happen for a reason. And the olive oil soap story is one of those things. And some of you guys may already know this story, but the majority of you don't. And it really is what I can attribute to my business really taking off, along with a lot of my, hard work and effort and day in and day out that I put invested all that time and effort into my business. There was this one thing that happened with the olive oil and the olive oil soap that really just launched everything. So we have a family friend that I've known since I was in high school, and her dad owned a little shop in our downtown area where we live. It's a really cute little walking area with like gift shops and florists and things like that. Cute little walkable area. And he owned a gift store over there that had jewelry and just little gifts and knickknacks, but they also had this whole section of like olive oil where you could taste olive oil and sample olive oil, and then you could purchase it. And he had an abundance of some olive oil that he was trying to get rid of before it expired, and it wasn't super appropriate for tasting, or it wasn't exactly what he thought it was to sell for people to consume. It just wasn't what he thought it was. So he had offered to me the rest of what he had, which by the way was about, if you think about those 35-gallon buckets like the Home Depot or the Lowe's buckets, there were about 7 of those. And at that time, that was a ton of olive oil for me. And even still now, I don't buy it in that quantity, but he was like, it's all or nothing. You can have it if you want all of it, but he was offering it to me at a low price. But even back then, it seemed like it was still too much for me to invest in. And I said, well, how about I just take 3 buckets? And he was like, no, it's really all or nothing. Like, I really need to unload this. And so he then lowered the price to something I absolutely couldn't refuse. It still seemed like a lot of money to purchase it, but when I looked at how much each gallon was, or each ounce was, that he was offering it to me, I really was like, well, this is such a great price that I have to make this work. So I ended up buying all of the olive oil, and then I had all of this olive oil and didn't know how I was going to get through it all before it expired. So I started formulating all these recipes with olive oil, And one of the ones that was born out of my necessity to use up this olive oil was the original carrot, turmeric, and honey soap. So that's how the recipe and the formula was born. And then I decided to film the process one day from beginning to end of how to make this soap, and the video became super popular. So I ended up selling a bunch of that soap, using up all the olive oil that he sold to me. And I remember something he said to me I'll never forget when I was purchasing it, and I said, no, that's really just too much olive oil. I don't think I can get through it all. And something he said to me was, think big. Like, you have to think big, and you have to sometimes make these big moves in order for other things to come into play in your life. And that couldn't have been a more true statement, because literally from the day that I purchased all of that olive oil, things just fell into place, one thing after the other, from the formula to selling the soap to the video becoming very popular to my YouTube blowing up. Then I decided to start a Patreon campaign a few years after that, 2 years after that. And this was the first recipe that I published over there. And so it just was like one thing that led to another that led to another. When I look back on it, it was a pretty defining magical moment in my life. And it's just such an interesting thing that happened that I wanted to share with you, that I think in addition to all the hard work I was already putting in, it was just one more thing that kind of put me up and launched me up over the top. And so I just really am always really grateful for my decision to buy that and for his decision to offer it to me. He could have offered it to any other soap makers in our area. I'm sure they would have been very happy with it. So that's how that was born. And now I'm going to go ahead and reformulate this and show you a redesigned, basically, soap. So what I'm putting in this half, this is going to be the bottom half of the soap. We're going to go ahead and put in our turmeric. I'm going to put all the turmeric in the bottom half this time. This is for a couple reasons. I just want it to look more dynamic. So we're going to go ahead and put the turmeric in here. So it's going to be an orange bottom half. And then I'm going to go ahead and place my carrot puree in here. I'm sure some of you can relate to that story when you think back to how things happen in your life. Like, comment below if you've had any experiences like that where you just can't deny the importance of the role it played. And I didn't have any idea, like, in purchasing it, I was just like, I couldn't pass up a good deal. That's really what I was thinking. So I'm going to go ahead and add in all of the orange essential oil into the bottom too, because this is a discoloring essential oil. It's going to make that bottom half orange. And then I am going to be putting in half of the honey, but I don't want to put it in quite yet because I know that will make it accelerate. And I want to make sure that I'm ready to move quickly after I add it. So it's becoming a very beautiful orange color. This orange color will not stay. The carrot puree will sort of kind of turn brown. A lot of fruit and vegetable purees go brown in your soap after a while, so it's not a bad color. It's just more of like an orangey brown when it sets up, which I've sold so many of those soaps just in that natural color, and it doesn't stay bright orange like this, unfortunately. So what I'm going to do today to kind of counteract that is go ahead and add in some, you could totally leave this out if you wanted to keep it completely natural, but I'm going to add in some pumpkin head orange mica by Mad Micas, probably about a teaspoon, and that's about 2.5 pounds. Maybe I'll add a little bit more. I really want to give the bottom half a nice vibrant orange color, and hoping to kind of counteract that browning that happens with the carrots. So I'm just going to mix this up. I'm mixing this up before I add the honey. Right now it's a very deep orange color. Again, this will change as it sets up. Turmeric will change color with the pH changes. So as the pH kind of mellows out in this soap, it will also not be as dark. So we're going to go ahead and just place half the honey in, just kind of eyeballing this. You could dilute the honey in with a little bit of water, but I really didn't want to add any more water to this formula. But you can reduce the water in the lye solution. Now again, these properties, the honey is going to add some antibacterial properties and some nourishment to this soap. It's also going to help increase the lather and bubbles a little bit. Honey is very healing. So again, this would still be a very appropriate bar to use if you have sensitive skin or eczema. So we're just adding in some other properties here to make it a little more balanced and interesting to look at. Honey will heat up your soap formula as well, so this will, bottom half, well actually both halves, because I'm going to be putting honey in the top half as well. So this soap will heat up. Okay, I just wanted to get this to kind of a little bit of a thicker trace. It's still very workable because we're going to be layering this soap. So right now it's sitting probably at like a medium trace, if you can see that. It's just sort of, it's thickening up, but it's not exactly where I want it to pour yet. I'm also wondering how many of you today viewed the original turmeric soap video, and if that's what brought you to my channel. Let me know in the comments if that's what brought you to my channel to begin with, because that's when I really started to see growth, is after the publication of that video. And I was kind of starting to get more well known for my soap making at that point. Okay. That is thick enough. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and bring my mold over. I'm using the same 5-pound loaf mold here, and I'm going to go ahead and tilt. I'm putting it on a tilt so that when I pour the soap, it's going to be at a diagonal, but I actually think I need to do it this way, which you're not going to see right away. But I need to face it towards myself to pour it in. So I'm going to go ahead and pour in. Maybe I can try to angle this way for you guys. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give it a try. Okay. This turmeric, again, we're going to get some browning with the carrots and the turmeric. But it won't stay this crazy dark color as the pH lowers. So we're going to go ahead and just pour it in. I'm pouring it in. It's going to be on a diagonal here. So the whole bottom half is going in on a tilt, on a slant. There we go. If I can get a little bit more in there. Okay. Just getting that down as even as I can. Just gonna even out this layer a little bit. All right, now I'm going to allow this to set up a little bit before we do anything with the second half of the soap. All right, so the soap is pretty good. It's still a little bit jiggly, but I'm going to go ahead and move it off to the side so we can prepare the top half of the soap. I'm going to just leave the top half of the soap completely natural colored. But to this half, we're going to go ahead and add in some colloidal oats. Colloidal oats are great for their soothing and calming properties. And I'm also going to be adding in the clove essential oil, the honey, but also some calendula petals. In the original version, I showed you guys how to infuse your oils with chamomile tea. And we just infused all of the olive oil with chamomile tea, again, because chamomile is very calming and soothing. Calendula is also known for its soothing, calming, and anti-inflammatory properties. So we're just going to add a little bit of interest. Actually, I'm going to add those in after I blend. I think I'm just going to stir those in after I blend so I don't cut them up so much, but that'll add a little bit of interest to the soap. And also it'll help to bring some of those soothing and calming properties from the original version in there. So there's the colloidal oats, and then we're going to go ahead and add in, now this part we're going to have to probably move a little bit quicker than the last part, because I know that clove can really start to heat things up and move things in the soap. Now you might be wondering why I'm adding less of some of the additives as before, and that I did that for a couple reasons. So I wanted this bar to have a little bit more of a lather than the original version, and everything you add into your soap can inhibit lather and bubbles. So I just wanted to make sure we were getting some more of that. And also, you really don't need as many additives as in the original version. It's actually still a lovely bar of soap, the first formula, and I know lots of you have purchased it and really like it, but I just wanted to make sure we weren't going overboard with this particular one, especially in the way of the, okay, now this is starting to get thick. I'm going to go ahead and stir it up. I thought this would happen, and I don't even want to put my stick blender in it. I don't even want to put my stick blender in it because I don't want to agitate it too much. So I'm just going to actually stir in some of those flower petals. Maybe I need to give this a little bit of a blend to get those chunks of colloidal oats. I have it on the lowest setting here just to get some of those colloidal oats broken up. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and stir in just a small handful of calendula petals. Now, calendula is the only botanical that doesn't change color in your soap. Most botanicals will go brown in your soap. Calendula is not one of those. It stays at nice kind of golden hue, so it's going to give the soap a little bit of a golden, kind of like a golden little specks, and give it some interest. I'm just hand mixing here. Okay, so the soap is a lovely texture for pouring right now, so I'm going to go ahead and get my the bottom half here back into the frame. Here we go. Now you can see the soap is starting to go through a little bit of a gel phase already. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and spritz the top with some rubbing alcohol. This helps the soap kind of glide over the surface area a little easier. And it also helps to adhere the two layers. So I'm going to start by just gently pouring in a little bit this way before we move it back. Okay. And then I'm gently going to remove the book and set this soap upright. And that way we'll be on a diagonal. And then I'm going to continue to pour. So I fully expect this soap to heat up and go through a gel phase. So I'm just going to go ahead and flatten this out. All right, I'm gonna give this a few minutes to set up a little bit, and then we're gonna texture the top, and I'm gonna put a little bit more calendula petals on the top just for interest. Okay, so we're just gonna go ahead and add a little bit of texture to the top here. I'm just gonna take my spoon and just kind of, I'm just kind of flicking the soap over. Like that. And then what I'm going to do is just take some calendula petals and sprinkle them over the top. I've got a little bit of turmeric coming up here. I don't know if the camera's picking that up, that bright kind of orange soap coming up here. So I'm interested to see if I broke through the layer or drug some of that soap up somehow, if it was just stuck on the side of the mold. When we cut, it should be interesting to see how that layer stayed. So I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle some calendula petals on the top. Sprinkling on just a little bit more than I think I'm going to need here, just because I know I'm going to lose some in the cutting process. Okay, just going to give this a good spritz with some rubbing alcohol. That'll kind of help the botanicals stick a little bit to the wet soap a little bit better. And I'm also going to just push this down some and make sure that they really get in there and stick. There we go. Now, this should prevent soda ash and also kind of help seal in the botanicals. Again, it will be interesting to see what this looks like when we cut it and see if we broke through that layer at all. And if we did, that's okay. I'm not going for perfection. It'll make it look a little more rustic, and the soap already is kind of a rustic looking soap. But there you have it. That's how you make the revised version of the carrot, turmeric, and honey soap. Stay tuned for the cutting. Just wanted to show you real quick how the soap is going through a hot gel phase, just like I had said that it does. That's due to the clove essential oil as well as the honey. So those things will make a soap set up. However, it's not so hot that it's cracking or anything like that. It just goes through a pretty intense gel phase. All right, so it has been about 24 hours now, and we're ready to go ahead and cut this soap. And this is what it looks like on the sides. You can see it did kind of break through a little bit, so I'm interested to see what it looks like when we cut it. But overall, that orange settled out to a really nice orange color, and it's a nice, hard, solid loaf of soap. So we're just going to put the botanical side here. That way we're not dragging the botanicals down the soap and causing gouge marks. And then we're just going to give it a cut. Now, this did go through a pretty intense gel phase. So it's made a nice hard bar of soap after 24 hours. And this is what it looks like. I think it's really pretty, very natural looking. And the inside will lighten up a little bit too as it cures and hits the air, but very pretty. The calendula petals stayed nice and golden looking. Very nice. Smells pretty good. Okay, I'll share with one more with you here. All right, everybody, that's how you make a beautiful turmeric, carrot, and honey soap. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please remember to give it a thumbs up. Please leave me some comments and questions below. That really means a lot to me. Share this video with a friend, and why not subscribe to my channel? All right, everybody, catch you on the next video. Bye. Keep shining.